I'd been in the club about 5 years, and Sir Brother Rick approached me and he says, Mike, you've been giving a lot of really good speeches on health and wellness and all that stuff. It's time for you to start talking about something that you do not know. Well, when I finally stopped shaking and got over my cold sweat, I realized that he was, of course, right. Today, I'm going to actually do that on a topic that you all know I know very little about, sports. In fact, I'm going to talk about Rick's second favorite pastime, golf. He plays golf when he gets done with his first favorite pastime of doing wheelies on his motorcycle. First, I'm going to share a little bit about the history of golf. Then I'm going to share little specifics about the game. And then I'm going to finish up by telling you a few personal thoughts about this. I went online and started looking at things about the history of golf. The very first thing I jumped into was a guy named Ben Johnson. He was a big shot in an organization called Historic UK, about the UK. And he said the game started in Scotland in the early 15th century. Well, I went to the next link in the list and I bumped into a place called Athletic Scholarships, and then a guy named Jim Weathersby. He was a serious sports historian, knew way too much about way too many sports. And he talked about golf. Both of these guys said that it started way back with Julius Caesar in 100 BC in ancient Rome. They actually had little balls that they kind of did this, and they had clubs and they tried to be sort of organized about it. And then we move forward, and finally in Scotland, some guys, you got to picture this, some guys were hitting rocks on a beach. Please follow me, these egotistical, competitive gentlemen. Here's Mike. Hey, Mike! Come here, watch this. Hey, let me try. I hit further than you. Give me that. Give me that stick. Oh, yeah? You see that hole over there? Once more. Again. One more. Try that. You can see golf starting just like that. Sorry, I had a lot of fun acting that up. Anyway, the game started to get serious when royalty got involved. Jim Weathersby brought this out. And so Mary, Queen of Scots, she's a queen in Scotland, and she got onto this game and she started playing it. And it started to spread through Scotland and France and England, etc. Well, Mary visited France. And she was playing there, and it turns out her aides were military cadets, and she would call them caddies. The origin of the term caddy is from Mary, Queen of Scots. That was pretty cool. In 1873, it finally came to North America in Canada. In 1894, it came to the US in New York. Of course, what we see today, they have amateur groups, and they got professional groups, and they got really involved with course design. And of course, it had to be really elaborate. There's a lot of details about that that I didn't bother reading from Brother Ben Johnson. I will tell you, though, if you want to see where this game has progressed, one of the activities my wonderful, precious wife, Kathy, and I like to do is we like to go to Shields to the second floor. And they've got this little golf thing. Excuse me. They got this little golf thing there. You should see the list of putters that they have. You should see, and they're all different. Who needs that many different putters? I don't know. But anyway, it just gives you an idea of how refined the sport is right now. That's really cool. Let's move a little bit into some of the golf techniques. You know, I tried to play golf when I was in high school, and it was embarrassing. So I said, how do you actually do this? I started to look up some instructional websites. There's one called Instructables, and the instructor is called 23 Rat LSA. And he described 8 swings for the eight steps of the golf swing. And it had to do with you start here and here is a stance, etc. But it was very much focused on the mechanics of how to do that. They have videos, etc. So if you ever want to know how to do golf or any other thing, the Instructables website would be helpful for you. I don't really like to go to Wikipedia because it might not be reliable, but they talked about the physics of golf. Well, I'm an engineering scientist. Now we're talking. So they talked about how when you have the club up like this, it's important to have your wrist cocked a certain way. And then when you come down, you uncock your wrist, whatever that means. And that is because the club then will swing like this. Now it turns out when that club is swinging, the arm flexes a little bit. And if you cock your wrist just right, it'll flex just like, it'll bend just like this, and it'll hit the ball with extra volume or something like that. And then they talked about the dynamics of the ball. I wondered why they have to have so many different balls. The type of feeling inside the ball has to do with the aerodynamics and how that thing will swing. I'm sure it has nothing to do with when Rick is playing with someone and he steals their ball off of the course. It has nothing to do with that. Actually, for one of our anniversaries, Kathy and I went to a golf lesson, and the gentleman took us, and it was actually really fun. I could barely do anything. And he started with the hands, and then he said, you got to stand like this. And he called it the 324 steps of a golf swing. Well, thankfully, these guys online only had 6 or 8 steps, but there is so much information online, and there's people that we can reference that if we really want to know how to play the game, we can do that. That brings me to some personal thoughts about golf. And frankly, any of these, y'all know that I ridicule golf and pretty much any sport every chance I get. And I know, my friends, you know, I do that because I would love to be able to play golf. I would love to be able to do these things. I'd really like to spend afternoons with Kathy out there on the golf course, and I would want to walk for the exercise, but it seems to me it'd be really fun to be able to do that. Our son, Tony, he's our Army son. He has some really nice clubs. He claims that he's able to do that. The other thing is, this machine here is a use it or lose it machine. This is seriously, I think this is a good way to get out, and you got to be able to think. You got to be coordinated and balanced. There's just a lot of things that you have to do. You know what? Maybe I actually could play a round of golf with Rick, but it's okay if you can hit it farther than me. Madam Toastmaster.